U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto chose. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto chose.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another emergency Green Smoke live stream here in the North End. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. Sitting here on a Thursday, post All-Star Week festivities, and kind of as we expected, of course, having a lot of work to get back to here today after all the fun and the hijinks that was All-Star Week. Of course, we get Green Smoke here on the first day of the secondary transfer window. Not really unexpected here with the way the rumors were circulating with Tommy Scoops in town and hearing him drop some tidbits where we were over the past week. Before we get into the new player here today on our Wednesday and hang out with our friends in the live chat, I'll ask you, as I always do, since I saw you last night leaving the stadium, how you feeling, my friend?
Hurting a little bit from this week. It's been a long 4 days, 5 days, whatever. I think we started on the weekend. So yeah, hurting a little bit. Can't hear anything out of my left ear. So if I'm screaming on this podcast, forgive me. I'm all clogged up in there, backed up, can't hear shit. So, but excited for this. Knew it was coming. Knew we were gonna have to be on watch here. Had to finagle some things at work and get out of that. So excited to be here with our friends and talk about this new addition for Austin FC.
Yeah, just kind of blasted it out about 15 minutes ago that we were just going to fire it up now. You will get your regularly scheduled North End episode later on this evening, previewing DC United. A lot of other rumor mill stuff to talk about. Brandon Vasquez, successful surgery on his knee today, so we can discuss that as well. So that's great news. Good to see that with BV. But let's go ahead and get into this. We see our buddy Gmo dropping in the bricks, of course. Mason, P-Mike, and P-Mike saying it's so fun doing the North End All-Star itinerary. It was, man. It was a heck of a 5-day run there. But let's talk about the newest Austin FC player here, E. And that is, I don't know if it's Mateja or Mateja, but I'm going to go with Mateja Djordjevic. I'm also going with that because the club not giving us a pronunciation guide in the press release. So I would like to bring that tradition back. Yeah. I don't know if you're just fucking with me or not because I'm usually going to have issues with stuff like that. But this was a guy or a rumor, rather, that popped up almost immediately after we finished recording our last episode a week ago, following that victory over the LA Galaxy. And that was another one of those reports right at the beginning of that episode. We were talking about how it seemed like Danny was going to be sold and that was getting close to a certainty. And then also right after we finished that episode, Bogert threw a wet blanket on that rumor, had to do it again later in the week. But Djordjevic was reported by Mozart Sport at first as the newest Austin FC acquisition for a deal in the range of $1 million. And Mozart Sport is the same outlet that first reported the Osman Bukhari transfer last year, and is also the sponsor of the Serbian First Division. So as our buddy Logan Okwa said, when Mozart Sport reports something happening in the Serbian league, it better be coming true. And this one just a week later, officially announced by the club here, Mateja Djordjevic, coming over on a $1 million-ish transfer from, what is it? FK TSC Bačka Topola. And I will shout out Landon and Mike, because on Moon Tower on Monday, Landon had the pronunciation fleshed out there. So stealing from Moon Tower a little bit there to help with our pronunciations. 22-year-old Serbian center back, and for the roster purposes, U22 Initiative contract, which means you're on a senior slot, and he will also take up that 9th and final international slot. So as things stand, we'll get into the roster here in a few minutes, but all out of senior slots and all out of international slots at the moment. Obviously, you and I, there's not a ton out there on this guy being such a young center back prospect from the Serbian league. We do have a couple highlight tapes we can watch here, but what were kind of your first takes, I guess, when you heard that this came through today as an official signing from what we were discussing over the last week? I know you and I, when we were walking to the queue yesterday, I was, of course, as I do, speculating to you, like, well, maybe he's here, maybe he's in town, like that now that Bogert is hinting that this is going to be a done deal. I will say in the press release, in his quote, "I want to get to Austin as soon as possible to help the team during the push for the playoffs this season." So Mateja not here yet, but what are your takes here on a U22 slot being filled, man? It's been a while since we had multiple U22s on the roster.
I am excited for the U22 slot to get used up here. I'm also excited for him to be paired with 2 all-stars in that back line there. You have Guilherme Biru, all-star, Brad Stewart, you all-star. So that's probably what brought him over, knowing that we had both those guys be in the all-star game last night, actually. Yeah. So, I'm excited. This is a mechanism that you have to use in this league to create advantages, to be successful moving forward in regard to both the construction of your team, as well as potentially moving guys on. I know that you have a nice little list of some U22 center backs that are in the league right now who we know can contribute. And hopefully this is one of those type of guys. We've long speculated, recklessly speculated about Julio and, what his contract looks like, and that his tenure here in Austin might be coming to a close. And this might be another push in that direction. So like I said, just very excited that we're using up this U22 slot for this guy and being able to get him over here. And I like the quote that he said there: make the playoff push. That's what we're looking to do, man. So anything that we can get to help, more hands on deck, ready to roll.
Yeah, so in terms of the player's history as a 22-year-old, he actually came up through the academy ranks of Partizan there in the Serbian league, right? We're familiar with the eternal derby between Red Star and Partizan there, both on the football side of things and the hoop side of things. And then after leaving Partizan, when he was 19, he made his senior debut for Voždovac. Season and a half with that club, 28 appearances across all comps, including 18 in the Serbian First Division. And his performances there earned him the move to Bačka Topola, which finished in 3rd place in the Serbian First Division in his first season. And the team kept the league's 2nd best defensive record. Across his 2 seasons with TSC Bačka Topola, Djordjevic made 51 appearances, including 2 in UEFA Champions League qualifying, 2 Europa League appearances, and 7 appearances in the Conference League. Also 15 youth international appearances for Serbia, most recently at the U21 level. So as we continue to talk about him here, we can go ahead, we can play some of these highlights while we're discussing the player, where he fits in, because I think maybe when we talk about where he fits on the roster and the backline depth chart, our buddy Mackie in here, good to see Mackie in the chat, was saying, is this reinforcement or the end of the Julio Cascante road? Steven says, would rather see them reconstruct Julio's deal and keep him for depth. And I don't know where you stand on that, so I'll let you start. Do you think this means Julio is on the outs in this window, or that you maybe try to renegotiate that contract when the option comes up in the winter?
I do not think he's out in this window. I do think he's a potential buyout opportunity, but we shall see there. I don't know if you're going to be able to sell Julio. I mean, Roto has done things that have maybe been like, oh shit, like when we sold Romania for a profit. I didn't think that was possible. So potentially Julio could be sold here. I wouldn't bank on it. I do think he is one of the people on the short list for potential buyout. In regard to restructuring Julio, I think that's tough, man. You know what I mean? Julio had his contract, what he was making, established what he thought was fair value as well. And I know that was from a different regime and everything like that. I think that would just be really difficult to convince Julio of that, unless he absolutely loves it here and is willing to take a pay cut and have us have 4 guys on that center back slot there.
Yeah, and I think I'm with you that we're like, Julio is certainly a buyout candidate if they're going to use that mechanism during this window. I also think, I think it's kind of, I guess at this point, I feel like there's going to be a minimum of one player either going out or a player getting a green card. And you could, I mean, we could talk about, a dream scenario in terms of movement, right? Like multiple guys going out, all of the best transfer rumors that we've had come through the rumor mill, like coming true, right?
Yeah,
like that ceiling outcome could certainly happen. But I don't think we're done for this window in terms of inbound players, which means unless you're just bringing somebody in on a supplemental who doesn't take up an international slot, that somebody has to either restructure or be sent out, by a trade, by a transfer, by a buyout, something like that. So, and I see, go ahead.
Don't we have the injury exception? It couldn't be.
Oh, that's true.
It couldn't be an international slot, but it would be a senior slot, correct?
Correct. And it would be a DP slot. But
yes.
So, finding domestic DP would be really, really tough, I think, at this juncture. But that is another slot. So that's appreciate you jogging my memory there. And Mason here saying, think Julio would have to take a huge pay cut to stay, probably too big of a cut to stay. And I think that would probably just be up to him, whatever the number that Roto would potentially offer him on a new contract in the winter, right? Decline that option, sign a new deal. I think it would be surprising to me if he stayed for less than like $400K because of how much he's making now.
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason why I don't think he's going to get restructured due to what he's making right now. And that's a double-edged sword because obviously he got paid well and everything like that. But I don't think that he's going to come into a restructuring agreement with a very open mind. I could be speculating and putting words in his mouth here, but just seeing the figure that he comes in at, it seems like it would be an aggressive pay cut. And we've already seen from Roto with BHI and Svatok that we've been able to find starting quality center backs for under the 300K threshold, basically for those guys. So like if Julio can see that kind of writing on the wall and is willing to talk in that regard, then I could see it. But I think that's going to be a tough sell.
Yeah, and I think like ideally, if Julio does stick around, then I would think that you're bringing this U22 kid in to compete to start. And like, I just don't think Julio has shown much this season where he's like in the mix right now for one of those two slots. If you're only running out two center backs, so that is certainly, again, it's obviously a big topic with this signing being confirmed here today, because of the lack of playing time for Julio, and I think the underperformance this season relative to what we've seen in past seasons from him.
I mean, the other two guys elevated their games, and it's clear that Julio is on a regression track right now. Yeah.
Well, so, okay. Mason, don't make me hit the drop. I won't here since we're running in the middle of the workday. But he says, holy shit, what if he's not playing Julio because of a Rigoni-like extension clause? So, right, that would be like if Julio plays, I don't know, 12 matches, that, that option gets automatically picked up for $800K plus next year. I don't think that is a possibility. I mean, anything's possible. But this, because that is still a Wolf era extension, right?
I mean, it's just a little different with Rigoni, right? Like we didn't have anyone that we felt like was a starting caliber player over on that wing spot, where it's just like Julio is clearly the third best center back on this team of three center backs.
Yeah, and I think like I forget who was bringing this up. Maybe it was Mike Cragnola on that Moon Tower episode I referenced earlier this week. But like, I could see that being, I could definitely get on board with somebody suggesting that there's an escalator in the Taylor trade, that if he plays if he starts a certain number of games this year, because that's been a little bit inexplicable, right? I think most of the plugged in fan base holds Robert Taylor in a higher regard than what we've been seeing in terms of his minutes output, right? Like, guy doesn't have a start yet, and we're about to be in August.
We're also we're grasping for straws as a fan base right now for anyone who can get some offensive production. Not to take away from what Robbie has done and the way he's looked and everything, but like, there would be a lot of guys we were clamoring for just because we need someone to produce on the offensive side of the ball.
For sure. And the after roll in here saying, Mason, you're smoking, bro. Julio's not playing because he's a liability. Which is fair. And I don't know. Mason might be smoking. I don't know.
Could be.
He could be. And P Mike's in here asking, is Djordjevic, just to get back to the player at hand here, is he a plug and play quality player as U22, or will he need lots of time to get integrated into the system? I do have another highlight here, this one. There are only two, as this blasts some big time Eastern European house music into my ears. I had to mute that. There are only these two highlight tapes of the kid because he's so young and because he's not playing in one of the, big 5 leagues. It can be really tough to find good film on these guys. And to pull one more time from Landon, Landon gets on the Y Scout account and gets to watch some of those full games. Some of the things he said about this player is that when they did run a 3 center back look, Djordjevic did play on both sides of that 3 center back formation. And then when they were in a back 4 with just that center back pairing, that he was playing on the right side of those 2 center backs. So I think you would hope that this guy is good enough to come in and compete for minutes right away. Mm-hmm. The fact that he's not in Austin yet and the limited number of games we do have left, right? If he's not here yet, I don't think that he might be active on the bench for maybe Houston, probably not. Maybe Dallas at home on August 16th. I don't think he's challenging for a starting spot by then. No. And by then, we're into single-digit number of league games remaining. Mm-hmm. So I personally am not counting on, starts from this kid this year, but certainly some rotation minutes. Especially when we get into that week where it's like Copa Tejas Open Cup, and then we have another league match. I think it's Seattle the following weekend. I'm counting on very little this season, I think, in my head, in my early thoughts on this player. And going forward, much more excited about what he can develop into, both as a player for us, and then potentially at the end of this U22 deal, you sell him on for a profit and generate some more GAM from a spot like this.
Yeah, I mean, I would be pretty shocked to see if he was, he'd have to come in here and really set the world on fire and really show out in some training, very quickly, establish that he's in shape. I'm looking at his past matches here. It doesn't look like he's played in a little bit. So, especially with our back line and the fact that we have our solidified 2 center backs, we have our solidified 2 fullbacks, potentially with Palacios coming in, that could change as well. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That back line is working right now, and it's playing at an upper echelon level in this league. So unless he came in here and really turned some heads, I would not be anticipating him getting a ton of time, and definitely not a handful of starts.
Yeah.
So it's also we were potentially speculating, I forget what game it was. It's Ilye's your emergency center back. And I think that's what we're really trying to avoid in the early stages of this signing. Whereas I agree with you, moving into 2026, I could absolutely see him being competing for starting minutes. And if I'm going to stick to my guns on it, saying Julio's not going to be here, have him be the 3rd center back in that rotation there.
Yeah, and I think that's another kind of point in the Julio's not leaving this window idea in terms of this is right now filling the Leo Väisänen slot that has been empty for 4 months at this point, right? You need 4 center backs on a team, and we just have been rolling with 3 and using those extra call-ups when needed for Gomez and then, Van Rijn, who has now departed the second team. So
that's interesting too, because and Gomez was out of call-ups, and then Van Rijn's obviously gone, so you lost those 2 options there. So that might have played a role here as well.
Yeah, I also think this is a guy that they've probably been targeting for months, if not multiple transfer windows, keeping an eye on Djordjevic. And maybe this is a time when coming into or in the off season over there in Serbia, right? Maybe a cheaper price tag on the player, waiting until the offseason rather than getting him back in the winter or something like that. Yeah. This is our 5th ever U22 player, right? Mm-hmm. Halfway through that first season in the summer window when we brought in the Moose, we had Redis, we had Kolmanic, and we had Musa Gite. And then we were down to just Kolmanic for a while, and then he came off his U22 designation at the end of last season, and Nico Dubrasarski came in the winter. But this is the first time since the end of 2023 that we've had 2 U22s on the roster. So that's good. Again, like you are not a finished product from a roster build standpoint until you're taking advantage of all your special designation slots. And this is the first one we've used at center back. And if we're going to use a special designation slot on a center back, very glad it's U22 instead of a DP. I don't think you should have DP. DP's really on your back line. I don't think it's worth it.
Unless you have an absolute stud. For sure.
Yeah. Some of the other, like, I don't know if we can say recent success stories. I guess the biggest success story of late for a U22 center back is George Campbell, right? Montreal just sold him to West Brom in the championship. I think that fee was undisclosed. But like in terms of some of the other U22 center backs around the league, like Jalen Neal is also with Montreal. I think he's probably U22, maybe just U22 only because he was in that, he was traded by the Galaxy in the cash for player trade. So that just kind of might be an accounting feature there. But we saw Noah Eiley, right, from Red Bulls come through about a month and a half ago. Tomas Aviles for Inter Miami, right? I think it's kind of top end U22 center back in the league. Nicholas Romero for Minnesota United. He has been a guy that when we play the Loons this season, Romero's name comes up a lot in our recaps. Robert Voloder for SKC. These are just some of the names, right? If you're looking for comps of other U22 center backs across MLS, not really like all-star caliber guys, but impact players on the back line, sure. And that's, overall, I think U22s as a whole are just low risk, high reward propositions because of the salary cap savings you get from using these designations.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's move to the roster sheets here at thenorthendpodcast.com. Of course, got to make the bigger, not smaller. Here we go. Again, all 20 senior slots as of right now are occupied. All 9 international slots occupied. Now that 9th slot is the additional one we acquired on draft day from the Rapids. So 3 DP slots, 2 of the 3 U22 slots now filled. So to bring in a Diego Palacios, again, we are uncertain if Diego Palacios has a green card or not. Certainly uncertain on if his salary being covered by Corinthians would put him on a supplemental slot or not. If you're going to bring in a Tuti Andrade, whether it was a transfer or a loan, you need senior slots, right? You're going to need international slots. So that's why I don't think we're done here on the first day of the transfer window. The window does close on August 21st. I think at minimum we get one player out and or one green card for one of these. I would say, Beloko's not going to get a green card just getting here. So one of the other 7. And look, man, you can get 2 birds, 1 stone if you can sell Hot Air Obrian. Again, that's not something that there's very little smoke around that rumor, but it is something that we've heard. And Obi's actions for about a week, 10 days there, certainly he didn't seem like he's the happiest camper.
Yeah, was hinting at something going on behind the scenes there. We have to look at this through the lens of a lot of the plans probably got scrapped and blown up once BV went down. That changed how this was going to look, in my opinion. If we're trying to make a push for playoffs now, which the expectation last year was you either make the playoffs or you lose your job, for the head coach. And obviously there was much more of a timeline given what Josh had been through, the success and failures of all of those clubs. And Nico, I think, obviously has a longer leash here, but I do think that's the bar that we're trying to set and establish right now as a relatively young club. We want to be in the playoffs and we want to be competing in the playoffs when they come around. So I'm looking at that as something where it's just with the BV loss, you have that open DP slot for an extended period of time. You have that senior slot open up for extended period of time. And if you're targeting more of a high profile player to replace BV and try to get some of that value back, although I do still maintain that we were just kind of fortunate that Mirtu was probably,
right.
Playing more so in the way we envisioned this when it was supposed to work, was playing more so of a wing that would be slotting into the middle as almost like a secondary striker much more often. So to be able to switch him right up to the front and have him play the traditional 9, I don't think you have to do a 1-for-1 for BV, but I do think plans changed because of that. And, we've seen time and time again, a lot of these rumors that are much more front facing and like they build and build, like don't come through. But like something like this where it drops, it's a concrete kind of source, those seem to get done. And like nobody had this dude on their radar and everything, but we've been talking about Palacios for 3 weeks now. You know what I mean? We've been talking about this Danny saga for a week plus now. So like there's a lot, Tuti Andrade was floated around. I forget the other guy. I forget his name every time.
Mikhail Nade.
Nope. The other attacking mid, Nade, like you said, that floated around. Lanzini. So like those, you know what I mean? Like we had to smoke with those, but there was no actual fire. Like this one was boom, guy dropped. He's here. Here's your contract. Let's go.
A week later.
So, and I think, Roto, when he came in, was wanting to keep a tight ship. I thought he mentioned that. And like, that's been, kind of the operational standard for this club so far.
Yeah. Well, I think that I'm 100% with you. Like, that something with the plan changed, right? Yeah. When BV went down. I also then, like, as you said that, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of like these grand, speculations in my head. I do come back to Roto and him harping on in his press conferences, like, I'm not going to make any panic signings, right? I'm always looking for that sustainability, which makes me think again, like it cast doubt to me on bringing in like the highest possible profile player for that SEI spot. Or again, like shifting around the plans that he had already been laying out for 6 months, for a year, what have you. Because some of these higher profile transfers that have these transfer fees, right, some of these are negotiated for so long. So it'll just be really interesting to see what he does, right? It's certainly a wrench in the plan. We knew that. We'll just see how far he takes it. So before we close it out here, right, and we can go through, right, you can go to the northendpodcast.com, click on the salary cap and roster sheets and check all this out, right? He's going to hit the cap at $200K through the duration of this contract, right? And so you look at the center back depth chart by year, it's him and Svatak are the only center backs locked in next year, with both Cascante and Heinzike on options. And then those guys are locked in through 27. And of course, Djordjevic through 28 with that 29 option. So he now joins that very small group of guaranteed contracts in 2028. Djordjevic, Dubersarski, Boloko, and Brandon Vasquez. So, I mean, this is a guy for the long term here. And I think I'm excited both in the long-term sense, but also in the short term, just to see what this kid can do. Because you look at his transfer market, right? This is a guy where his perceived value on transfer market, right, is pointing upward, right? Yep. 22 years old, youth international for Serbia. So I think it's a low risk, high reward type of signing at a position of need. We need the depth there. We need bodies. And for Roto to go out and pay a transfer fee right around $1 million, there is some serious intent for the future of Djordjevic here on Austin FC.
Absolutely. And like I mentioned, I think we're in lockstep there. We're not expecting starters minutes or anything like that, but I do feel much better having a secondary option to Julio if one of our starters goes down here. Like, like if that might be something where he's got to get thrusted into a position where he's not all the way ready yet or anything like that. I just like having that option as opposed to being like, yeah, we're going to slot Ilya back there, in a pinch. So
for sure. Absolutely. So as we shut it down here, because I know we got meetings coming up, and then we're going to convene for our regularly scheduled episode here in a little bit. I do see P. Mike saying, bring back the Moose.
Hey,
and Mike, we see the Pirates in here and been saying that since we got rid of him. The only hat trick in club history is P. Mike's favorite player. See Brian in here. Says, sorry I'm late. Look, sorry we had to spring this on you kind of out of nowhere. Very short notice for the Green Smoke live stream here on our Thursday. We'll actually, I see P. Mike asking about Hader, other transfer rumors, talking about Danny and the Coventry rumors. We will discuss all of that at the top of the episode here tonight, but wanted to get this live stream out there to all the sickos here. Whether you caught us live or you're catching us on the replay, we appreciate you tuning in and sticking with us here on our Thursday. And make sure you tune in. Episode 242 will be in your feeds here tonight, previewing the DC United match. Little All-Star Week recapping, of course, going through the rumor mill. I'm sure there will be a reckless speculation drop somewhere along the way. Anything else for you, E, before we shut it down?
No, sir.
All right, everybody. Once again, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you guys later this evening. Goodbye.
Green smoke, oh boy, who could it be? Maybe U22 or a new DP. Fans await, the excitement grows, can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke, oh boy, who could it be? Maybe U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows, can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke, oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows, can't wait to see who Roto chose.